In a quiet town nestled between green hills, Jake lived a simple life. He worked at a local grocery store, where he greeted customers with a smile. His days were often the same: stocking shelves, helping people find items, and chatting with friends. Jake enjoyed his routine, but deep down, he longed for something exciting to happen. Little did he know that his life was about to change forever. One sunny afternoon, as Jake was sorting through the store's mail, he noticed an unusual envelope. It was not like the others. There were no stamps or return addresses. The paper shimmered in the light, catching his eye. He carefully opened it and found a message written in elegant script. It read, "Greetings, Earth Dweller. I am Lyra, an alien goddess from the planet Celestia. I invite myself to your home tomorrow to learn about your world. Prepare for an extraordinary encounter." Jake blinked in disbelief. An alien goddess. The words danced in his mind. Was this some kind of prank? He looked around the empty store, half expecting to see hidden cameras. But as he read the message again, a thrill coursed through him. This was real. His heart raced with excitement and anxiety. Why would a goddess want to visit him? He was just an ordinary guy. He imagined how magnificent Lyra must be, floating in the sky with a crown of stars. Jake felt a mix of fear and wonder. What should he do? That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He tossed and turned, picturing the meeting in his mind. He imagined Lyra walking into his small home, glowing with light, surrounded by an aura of magic. What if he embarrassed himself? What if he had nothing interesting to say? As the sun rose the next morning, Jake made a plan. He decided to tidy up his house, making it presentable for a goddess. He cleaned every corner, dusted the shelves, and even baked cookies, hoping that the sweet smell would impress her. He chose his favorite books to display, thinking they might spark a conversation. When the clock struck 2, Jake felt a wave of nerves wash over him. He stood by the window, glancing outside every few seconds, half expecting to see a glowing spaceship land in his yard. The minutes felt like hours. He took deep breaths to calm himself, reminding himself that Lyra was just curious about humans. Suddenly, there was a flash of light outside. Jake rushed to the door, heart pounding in his chest. As he opened it, he gasped. Before him stood Lyra, her presence both powerful and serene. She was tall and graceful, her skin shimmering like the night sky. Her long hair flowed like ribbons of light, and her eyes sparkled with wisdom. "Hello, Jake," she said, her voice soft and melodic. "Thank you for inviting me into your home." Jake stood frozen for a moment, unable to speak. Lyra smiled, her warm gaze easing his nerves. "You have nothing to fear. I come in peace." With a nod, Jake stepped aside, inviting her in. He felt a strange energy as she entered, as if the air around them buzzed with excitement. The moment she crossed the threshold, he felt an overwhelming sense of awe. "Your home is lovely," Lyra said, looking around. "I can sense the warmth and care you put into it." Jake blushed at the compliment, grateful for her kind words. He offered her a seat on the couch, trying to keep his hands from shaking. They settled in, and for a moment, they simply stared at each other, unsure of what to say. "I've traveled far to learn about your world," Lyra began, breaking the silence. "I have read about humans, but I want to experience your life firsthand. What is it like to be you?" Jake took a deep breath. "Well, it's normal, I guess. I go to work, meet friends, and enjoy simple things like food and music." He felt a spark of confidence as he spoke, realizing that even ordinary life had its charm. Lyra listened intently, nodding as he talked about his daily routines. He described the beauty of nature around their town, the changing seasons, and the joy of spending time with friends. With each word, he felt more comfortable, as if he were sharing a secret treasure. "I find it fascinating," Lyra said. "Your world is full of emotions and experiences. I want to understand what makes you happy, sad, and everything in between." As they talked, Jake felt a connection growing between them. Lyra's curiosity was genuine, and her presence made him feel special. He realized that this was not just a meeting with a goddess. It was an opportunity to share the wonders of humanity with someone from another world. They spent hours talking, laughing, and learning from each other. Jake shared stories of his childhood, his dreams, and his love for adventure. Lyra, in return, shared tales of her own planet, where the skies were filled with vibrant colors, and the creatures sang in harmony. As the sun began to set, painting the sky with hues of orange and purple, Jake felt grateful. This day had transformed from a simple invitation into a remarkable journey. Little did he know, this was just the beginning of an incredible friendship that would change his life forever. The evening ended with Jake feeling hopeful and excited. An alien goddess had invited herself into his life, and he couldn't wait to see what adventures lay ahead. The arrival of the goddess. The next day felt like a dream to Jake. He woke up early, still buzzing from the previous day's encounter with Lyra. He couldn't believe he had met an alien goddess, and she had been so kind and curious. As he got ready for work, he wondered what she would be like when she returned. Would she wear a special outfit? Would she have strange powers? Jake felt a mix of excitement and nervousness that made his heart race. After a long day at the grocery store, filled with the usual customers and small talk, Jake found it hard to focus. All he could think about was Lyra. What would she say? How would she react to the little things he loved? The hours dragged on, and Jake felt like time was teasing him, slowing down just to keep him waiting. Finally, as the sun began to set, Jake finished his shift and hurried home. The sky was painted in shades of pink and orange, a beautiful backdrop for what he hoped would be another magical evening. He cleaned his house again, straightening up and making sure everything was just right for Lyra's arrival. He even baked another batch of cookies, their sweet scent filling the air. As Jake waited by the window, his heart raced at every noise outside. He wondered how he would know when she arrived. Would there be a flash of light again? Would she come walking through the door? Just as he began to doubt himself, he saw a bright light flicker in the distance. He rushed to the door, breathless with anticipation. Suddenly, a shimmering portal appeared in front of his house. It looked like a curtain of stars, swirling and twinkling. Jake's heart leaped in his chest. This was it. Lyra was coming. He opened the door just as the portal dissolved, and there she was, Lyra, the alien goddess. She stepped through the doorway, and Jake felt a wave of warmth wash over him. Lyra looked even more beautiful than before. Her hair flowed like liquid silver, and her eyes sparkled like the night sky. She wore a dress made of shimmering fabric that changed colors as she moved. Jake couldn't take his eyes off her. She seemed to glow with an inner light. "Hello again, Jake," Lyra said, her voice soft and enchanting. "Thank you for welcoming me into your home once more." Jake smiled, feeling both excited and shy. "Of course, I'm glad you're back," he replied, trying to sound confident. He invited her in, and once again, he felt that familiar buzz of energy in the air as she crossed the threshold. As she stepped inside, Jake noticed that she seemed even more at ease than before. "I've been looking forward to learning more about your world," Lyra said, her eyes shining with curiosity. "What shall we do today?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, I can show you some of my favorite things. How about we start with a tour of my town?" he suggested. He hoped to show her the beauty of Earth and share a part of his life with her. Lyra's face lit up with excitement. "That sounds wonderful. Lead the way." They stepped outside, and Jake felt proud to show off his hometown. The streets were lined with trees, their leaves dancing in the gentle breeze. Jake pointed out the local park, where children played and families gathered for picnics. "This is where I come to relax," he said. "It's peaceful here." As they walked, Jake talked about the town's history, sharing stories of how it had grown and changed over the years. Lyra listened intently, asking questions about everything from the buildings to the people. Her genuine interest made Jake feel important, as if his world truly mattered. When they reached the park, Jake found a bench under a large oak tree. They sat down, and Jake offered her a cookie from the batch he had baked. Lyra took a bite, and her eyes widened in delight. "This is delicious," she exclaimed. "It tastes like happiness." Jake laughed, feeling a rush of warmth at her compliment. "I'm glad you like it. It's just a simple cookie, but it's made with care." Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "I can see that. It's the little things that make life special, isn't it? The flavors, the feelings, the connections." As they talked, the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the park. Jake felt a deep connection with Lyra, as if they were old friends. They shared stories about their lives, their dreams, and their hopes for the future. Jake learned that Lyra had traveled across galaxies, seeing wonders beyond his imagination. "I want to understand you, Jake," she said earnestly. "You humans have so much to teach me about emotions and creativity. I find it fascinating." Jake smiled, feeling grateful for the chance to share his world with her. They spent hours in the park, talking and laughing, unaware of the time passing. For Jake, it felt like a fairy tale, one that he never wanted to end. As night fell, the stars began to twinkle above them. Jake looked up, then back at Lyra, who was gazing at the sky with wonder. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" he asked, feeling a sense of peace wash over him. "Yes," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper, "but not as beautiful as this moment." Jake's heart swelled at her words. He realized that this was more than just an encounter with the goddess. It was the beginning of an extraordinary friendship that would change both of their lives forever. With excitement bubbling inside him, he couldn't wait to see what adventures awaited them next. Sharing cultures. As the stars twinkled brightly above, Jake and Lyra sat on the park bench, feeling a deep connection grow between them. The night air was cool and filled with the sounds of crickets chirping. Jake felt excited about sharing more of his world with Lyra, the alien goddess who had become his friend. "Lyra," Jake began, his voice filled with enthusiasm, "I want to show you some of the things that make humans special. We have so many traditions and stories that I think you'll love." Lyra's eyes sparkled with interest. "I would love that. Please tell me more," she replied, leaning closer. Jake thought for a moment, then smiled. "Let's start with food. Food is an important part of human culture. We celebrate with it, comfort each other with it, and share it during gatherings." Lyra nodded, her face lighting up. "I've tasted your cookies, but I want to know about more dishes. What else do you eat?" "Well," Jake said, "there are so many. I'll teach you how to make one of my favorite meals. It's called spaghetti." He described the process of cooking pasta and making sauce, using simple ingredients like tomatoes, garlic, and herbs. As he spoke, Lyra listened intently, nodding along. "I can't wait to try cooking with you," she said with a grin. "What else do you do for fun?" "Another important part of our culture is music," Jake said, feeling excited. "It brings people together. We have many different styles, like rock, pop, and jazz. Music tells stories and helps express our feelings." Lyra's eyes widened. "Music? I have heard of it, but have never experienced it. Can you show me?" Jake felt a thrill of joy. "Sure. Let's go back to my house. I have a few instruments there." They walked back to Jake's home, chatting about their favorite sounds and songs. When they arrived, Jake grabbed his guitar from the corner of the living room. "This is a guitar. It makes music when you strum the strings." Lyra watched with fascination as Jake played a few simple chords. The sound filled the room, bright and cheerful. She clapped her hands in delight. "That is wonderful. I can feel the energy of your music." Jake smiled, feeling encouraged. "Do you want to try?" He handed her the guitar, and she examined it closely, her fingers gently touching the strings. With a little help, Lyra managed to strum a few notes. The sound was different, yet beautiful in its own way. "It's like a dance," she said, laughing with joy. I can feel the music flowing through me." As they continued to play and experiment with the guitar, Jake shared stories behind the songs he loved. He told her about the feelings that inspired the music, the joy of falling in love, the sadness of loss, and the happiness of friendship. Lyra listened carefully, her eyes wide with wonder. "Your stories are so powerful. They make me feel emotions I have never known before," she said. "It's incredible how music can connect us." After playing for a while, Jake decided to show her another part of human culture: art. "Let's create something together," he suggested, grabbing some paper and colored pencils. They sat on the floor, surrounded by art supplies. Jake showed Lyra how to draw simple shapes and create vibrant colors. "Art allows us to express ourselves without words. It can tell a story or show our feelings," he explained. Lyra began to draw, her strokes elegant and flowing. She created a picture of a vast, colorful landscape with stars and planets. Jake was amazed. "You're a natural," he said, admiring her work. "What should I draw next?" Lyra asked, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Why not draw something from your world?" Jake suggested. Lyra thought for a moment, then began to sketch a magnificent creature with wings that sparkled like diamonds. "This is a celestial phoenix. It represents hope and renewal on my planet," she explained. Jake watched in awe, fascinated by her creativity. He decided to share a piece of his own world, drawing a picture of Earth's rolling hills and trees. "This is my home. I love the way the hills look in the spring when everything is green and alive," he said. As they drew together, they exchanged ideas about their cultures, comparing traditions and beliefs. Lyra spoke of the Celestian festivals, where her people celebrated the changing of seasons with music, dance, and light. Jake listened, imagining the colors and sounds of such an event. In return, Jake shared stories about Earth's holidays, like Christmas and Thanksgiving, where families gathered to celebrate love and gratitude. "It's a time for togetherness," he explained. "We share meals and give thanks for what we have." Lyra's face lit up with joy. "That sounds beautiful. I want to experience these traditions with you. We can learn from each other." As the night wore on, Jake and Lyra continued to share stories and laughter. They felt like they were bridging two worlds, creating a bond that transcended their differences. When they finally finished their drawings, they admired each other's work, feeling proud of their creations. "Thank you for sharing your world with me, Jake," Lyra said, her voice filled with warmth. "This has been one of the most wonderful experiences of my life." Jake smiled, his heart swelling with happiness. "And thank you for sharing your world with me, Lyra. I've learned so much from you." In that moment, Jake realized that their friendship was more than just a connection between a human and an alien goddess. It was a celebration of their cultures, a journey of discovery that would bring them closer together. As they sat in the cozy glow of his home, they knew they were just beginning to explore the wonders of each other's worlds. Trouble in the town. The sun shone brightly over the town the next morning, filling the air with warmth and promise. Jake felt excited about his growing friendship with Lyra. They had shared stories, music, and art, and he couldn't wait to see what adventures awaited them next. However, he had no idea that trouble was brewing in their peaceful town. As Jake and Lyra strolled through the streets, laughing and talking, they noticed something strange. People were gathered around the town square, their faces filled with worry and fear. Curious, they walked closer to see what was happening. A local news reporter was speaking into a microphone, her expression serious. "We have received reports of strange lights in the sky last night. Many townspeople believe it might be a sign of danger. We urge everyone to stay indoors until we learn more," she said, her voice shaky. Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. What could it be? He wondered aloud. "I hope everyone is safe." Lyra, standing beside him, looked concerned. "What do you think those lights were?" she asked, her eyes scanning the crowd. "I'm not sure, but we should find out," Jake replied, feeling a sense of determination. Let's talk to some people and see if we can get more information. They approached a group of worried townsfolk who were whispering among themselves. Jake recognized some of them from the grocery store and felt a bit more comfortable. "Excuse me," he said. "What's going on? What did you see last night?" One woman, Mrs. Thompson, turned to him, her face pale. "We saw bright lights hovering over the park. They moved quickly and then vanished. It felt otherworldly." Jake exchanged glances with Lyra, who looked alarmed. "Could it be something from your world?" he asked her quietly. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. "It's possible. My people sometimes send scouts to observe different planets, but I've never heard of them causing trouble." Just then, a loud noise echoed from the edge of town. Everyone turned to see a small group of men running toward them, panic written across their faces. They were carrying makeshift weapons, sticks, and old metal pipes. "There's something out there," one man shouted, his voice trembling. "We need to protect our town." Jake felt a surge of fear, but also a spark of bravery. "Wait," he called out. "What did you see?" "It's a monster," another man yelled. "It came from the woods. It has glowing eyes, and it's making strange sounds." The crowd gasped, their fear growing. "We can't let it attack us," someone shouted. Jake knew they had to act fast. "Everyone, listen," he said, raising his voice. "Panicking won't help us. We need to stay calm and work together. Lyra and I will go check it out." The crowd fell silent, surprised by his confidence. "You're going to confront a monster?" Mrs. Thompson asked, eyes wide. "Yes," Jake replied, his heart pounding. "Lyra knows a lot about strange creatures. We'll figure this out." Lyra stepped forward, her expression serious but calm. "I can sense the creature's energy. It might be scared or confused. If we approach it with understanding, we may be able to communicate." After a moment of hesitation, the crowd began to nod in agreement. They could see that Jake and Lyra were determined to help. "Okay, but be careful," Mrs. Thompson warned. "We'll stay here and wait for your return." Jake and Lyra set off toward the woods, the sun shining behind them. The path was familiar, but the air felt charged with tension. As they walked, Jake glanced at Lyra. "Are you sure about this? What if it really is dangerous?" Lyra looked at him, her eyes filled with confidence. "We can't let fear guide us. We must approach it with open hearts." They reached the edge of the woods, where shadows danced beneath the trees. Suddenly, they heard a strange noise, a low growl that echoed through the air. Jake's heart raced. "Stay close," he whispered, gripping the stick he had picked up for protection. As they moved deeper into the woods, the growling grew louder. They came upon a clearing and spotted the creature, a large furry being with bright, glowing eyes. It looked both majestic and terrifying, its muscles rippling under its thick fur. "Look at it," Jake whispered, awe and fear mingling in his voice. Lyra stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I come in friendship," she called out, her voice steady. "We do not wish to harm you." The creature paused, its glowing eyes fixing on Lyra. Jake held his breath, unsure of what would happen next. Slowly, the creature relaxed its stance, tilting its head as if it were trying to understand. "You are not here to fight," it rumbled, its voice deep and resonant. "No," Lyra replied. "We want to help you. What are you doing here?" The creature let out a sigh, the tension leaving its body. "I was scared and lost. I saw the bright lights and followed them. I did not mean to frighten anyone." Jake felt relief wash over him. "You don't need to be afraid. We'll help you find your way back home," he said. The creature nodded, its eyes softening. "Thank you for understanding." As they talked, Jake and Lyra learned that the creature was called a luminary, a being that traveled between worlds. It had been drawn to the town by curiosity and the strange lights it had seen. Together, they devised a plan to help the luminary return home. Jake felt a surge of hope, knowing that they could turn a moment of fear into a chance for friendship. As they walked back toward the town, Jake couldn't help but feel that this was just the beginning of a new adventure, one that would bring their worlds closer together. Confrontation. As Jake, Lyra, and the luminary made their way back toward the town, they could feel the weight of the situation hanging in the air. The luminary, with its shimmering fur and glowing eyes, walked closely beside them, trying to stay calm. Jake kept glancing back at it, hoping the townspeople would accept this strange new friend. When they reached the town square, the crowd was still gathered, whispering nervously among themselves. The reporter was still there, trying to calm the frightened townsfolk. Jake felt a mix of excitement and fear as they approached. He hoped they would believe him and Lyra. "Everyone, please listen," Jake shouted, raising his hands to get their attention. The crowd fell silent, eyes wide with curiosity and apprehension. "We found the creature that has been causing all the trouble. This is not a monster. This is a luminary. Its name is Luma, and it means us no harm." The townspeople murmured, uncertainty clear on their faces. "A luminary?" Mrs. Thompson echoed, looking skeptical. "How do we know it's safe?" Lyra stepped forward, her expression calm and reassuring. "I understand your fear, but Luma is not here to hurt you. It was drawn to your town by the lights, just as you were afraid of it. It only wanted to explore." Jake watched as the crowd exchanged nervous glances. He could feel the tension in the air, thick like a fog. "Please," he urged, "let us talk to Luma. Give it a chance to explain." Slowly, Luma stepped into the light, its glowing eyes reflecting the uncertainty of the crowd. "I mean no harm," it said, its deep voice echoing in the square. "I am a traveler, seeking knowledge and understanding. I was curious about the lights, and I only wish to explore." Jake felt a glimmer of hope as some of the townsfolk began to relax. "See," he said, smiling. "Luma is just like us. It wants to learn and connect. But what if it brings danger?" A man shouted from the back, fear still evident in his voice. "We've heard stories about creatures from other worlds." Lyra raised her voice, determined to calm their fears. "You have every right to be cautious, but I assure you, we have no intention of causing harm. Let us show you how we can work together." With a deep breath, Jake stepped forward, trying to bridge the gap between the luminary and the townspeople. "We could learn so much from each other. Think of the possibilities. We could exchange knowledge and ideas." Luma nodded, its eyes glowing brighter. "I can share knowledge from the stars, from other planets. There is so much we could learn together." Slowly, the crowd began to soften. Mrs. Thompson stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "If it truly means us no harm, perhaps we should listen." Jake's heart raced with hope. "Yes, let's give Luma a chance. If we can open our hearts, we might discover something beautiful." "Yes," Luma replied, its glowing eyes shining brighter. "I have seen many strange sights. Some planets have colors that dance in the sky, while others have creatures that can change shape." The crowd gasped, their imaginations running wild with the possibilities. Jake smiled, knowing that Luma was captivating their hearts. He glanced at Lyra, who was also enjoying the moment, her face lit up with excitement. However, as the day went on, Jake felt a stirring of concern. While the townspeople were enchanted by Luma, he knew that accepting an alien being into their lives would not be easy. He wondered what challenges lay ahead and how they would make everyone feel safe. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the square, the mayor called for a meeting. "Everyone, thank you for coming together today," he said, his voice steady. "We have heard Luma's stories, and it is clear that we have a unique opportunity before us. But we must also think carefully about what this means for our town." Jake felt his heart race as he listened to the mayor. "What does that mean?" he whispered to Lyra, who stood next to him. "It means we have to make a decision," she replied softly. "How do we integrate Luma into our community?" The mayor continued, I propose that we allow Luma to stay for a while, to learn from us and for us to learn from it. But we must also establish guidelines to ensure everyone feels comfortable and safe. A murmur of agreement swept through the crowd. What kind of guidelines? Someone shouted from the back. The mayor paused, considering the question. Perhaps we could set specific times for Luma to interact with our community. It could help us understand each other better. I think that's a good idea. Jake spoke up, feeling the weight of the moment. We can have Luma join our festivals, share stories, and teach us about its world. But we also need to make sure that everyone has a voice in this process. The townsfolk nodded, intrigued by the idea. What about security? A man asked. What if Luma's presence causes more fear? Jake understood the concern. We can have a group of volunteers who will help Luma and guide it through the town. That way, people can see it as a friend rather than a threat. The mayor looked around the crowd, gauging their reactions. Does that sound reasonable? He asked. I think so, Mrs. Thompson said, stepping forward. We can give Luma a chance, but we should also keep an open line of communication. If anyone feels uncomfortable, we should address their concerns. Luma listened intently, its eyes shining with gratitude. Thank you for considering my presence in your town, it said. I want to share my knowledge, and I will respect your wishes. If I can help in any way, I will do so. The crowd clapped, the atmosphere shifting from uncertainty to excitement. Jake felt a swell of pride for Luma and their community. They were taking a brave step toward understanding, and he couldn't help but feel hopeful about the future. As the discussion continued, Jake and Lyra moved to the side, whispering to each other. What do you think will happen next? Jake asked, his mind racing with possibilities. I believe this could be the start of something amazing. Lyra replied, her eyes sparkling. If we work together, we can create a bond that lasts across worlds. But we also need to prepare for challenges, Jake said, feeling the weight of responsibility. Not everyone will accept Luma right away. Lyra nodded, understanding the concerns. We must be patient and supportive. Some people may need time to adjust. The meeting wrapped up as the mayor announced that a special event would be held to officially welcome Luma to the town. They decided to organize a festival where townsfolk could come together to learn about Luma's culture, and Luma would share its knowledge of the universe. Excitement filled the air as people began to disperse, talking animatedly about the upcoming festival. Jake felt a rush of enthusiasm. This was their chance to build bridges and foster friendships. As they walked home, Lyra smiled at Jake. You did well today. You stood up for Luma when it mattered. Jake blushed, grateful for her support. I just want everyone to see how amazing Luma is. It has so much to offer. Let's make sure we help prepare for the festival, Lyra suggested. We can plan activities that allow people to connect with Luma. Great idea, Jake replied, feeling inspired. We can set up stations where people can learn about different planets, music, and even art from Luma's world. They spent the rest of the evening brainstorming ideas, their excitement growing with every suggestion. They envisioned a day filled with laughter, learning, and connection. As they finished their plans, Jake looked out at the night sky, filled with stars. He felt a deep sense of purpose. They were not just welcoming an alien, they were opening their hearts to new experiences and friendships. The decision to embrace Luma had the potential to change their lives forever. Jake knew that together, they could build a future filled with understanding and hope, a future where worlds could unite, creating a beautiful tapestry of cultures woven together. A stronger bond. The day of the festival finally arrived, and the town was alive with excitement. Colorful banners hung from every building, and the smell of delicious food filled the air. Jake could feel the buzz of energy as families and friends gathered to celebrate their new friendship with Luma, the luminary. Jake and Lyra arrived early to help set up. They had spent the previous days planning activities, and now it was time to bring their ideas to life. Luma stood nearby, watching with its glowing eyes, eager to participate in the festivities. Are you ready for this? Jake asked Lyra, a hint of nervousness in his voice. "Absolutely," she replied, smiling brightly. "This is a chance for everyone to see how amazing Luma is." The first activity was a storytelling booth. Jake had arranged for Luma to share tales from the stars. People would gather around, enchanted by its words. As the first group of townsfolk arrived, Jake felt a mix of excitement and anxiety. "Welcome, everyone," Jake called out. "Today, we have a special guest who will share stories from its home planet." Luma stepped forward, its presence commanding yet friendly. "Greetings, friends. I am Luma, and I am excited to share my adventures with you." The townsfolk clapped, their faces lit with curiosity. Luma began to weave tales of its travels, describing breathtaking landscapes, strange creatures, and the wonders of the universe. Jake watched in awe as Luma's stories captivated the crowd, drawing them in with every word. As the sun rose higher in the sky, laughter and chatter filled the air. Children ran from booth to booth, their faces painted with colors representing Luma's home. Families gathered to try different foods inspired by both Earth and Luma's planet, creating a delightful fusion of flavors. After the storytelling, Jake and Lyra organized a cultural exchange where townsfolk could share their own stories, songs, and dances. Lyra encouraged people to showcase their traditions, creating an atmosphere of unity and joy. One elderly man stood up, his voice shaky but strong. "Let me tell you about our town's history," he said, and the crowd listened intently as he recounted tales of bravery and community spirit. As the festival continued, Jake noticed Luma mingling with the crowd. It laughed with the children, played games, and shared more stories. The townsfolk seemed to warm up to Luma, and Jake felt a sense of pride. "Look at how happy everyone is," Lyra exclaimed, her eyes shining with joy. "This is exactly what we hoped for." "Yes," Jake agreed. "It's amazing to see the connections being made. Luma has truly become a part of our community." As the afternoon wore on, they gathered for a group dance. Music filled the square, and Luma joined in, its movements graceful and fluid. The townsfolk followed suit, laughing and clapping as they danced together. Jake felt the rhythm of the music pulse through him, the energy of unity lifting his spirits. He could see how the festival was breaking down barriers, allowing everyone to connect with each other and with Luma. After the dance, they moved on to a special moment, the unveiling of a mural that Jake and Lyra had helped create. It depicted the town and its connection to Luma, showcasing the beauty of friendship between worlds. As they gathered in front of the mural, Jake spoke up. "This mural represents our journey together. It shows how we can learn from each other and grow as a community." Luma smiled, its eyes reflecting the colors of the mural. "Thank you for including me in this celebration. It is a joy to share our worlds." The townsfolk cheered, their spirits lifted. Luma had truly become a part of their lives, and they had embraced the wonders it brought. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Jake looked around at the faces of his friends and neighbors. They had come together in a way he had never imagined. Lyra stood beside him, her expression filled with warmth. "This is just the beginning," she said softly. "We will continue to learn from each other." Jake nodded, feeling a sense of hope and excitement for the future. "Yes, we've built a stronger bond today. It's incredible to see how far we've come." As the festival came to a close, they gathered for a final moment of celebration. The townsfolk lit lanterns, each representing a wish for the future. They released them into the sky, where they floated among the stars. "Look," Jake pointed upward, his heart soaring as the lanterns illuminated the night. "It's beautiful. It's a symbol of our new friendship," Lyra said, her voice filled with wonder. "Together, we can reach for the stars." Jake felt a surge of emotion as he watched the lanterns drift away. They had turned fear into understanding and built bridges between worlds. In that moment, he realized that this was more than just a festival. It was a new beginning. They had opened their hearts to the unknown, creating a tapestry of connections that would continue to grow. As they all stood together, gazing at the glowing lanterns, Jake knew that they had forged something special, a bond that transcended their differences, bringing them closer than ever. The night was filled with laughter, hope, and the promise of a brighter future. Together, they would navigate whatever challenges lay ahead, united by the shared experiences that had brought them all together.